Hello, everybody. I hope the audio is going okay. Sorry for the little lateness here. Just had to get a few things set up, make sure the stream was running well. I think I think we're all doing fine here. Well, from my end anyway. But let me know how the stream sounds, and let me know about the audio as well. So I've just got a few chats here. Probably will take a while for you guys to actually hear me coming through, but we've got quite a few people. We've got Carol, Porter, and Margaret. How you doing, Margaret? Here in the chats, and haven't seen you for a while, Marg. And yeah, it's been a little while. Apologies in advance for my croaky voice. Hay fever season, so you're probably going to hear me sniffle and stuff every now and then, but I will try to mute the microphone. This is just one of those, yeah, basically times where hay fever really gets to me here in Melbourne. I think it's just due to these, I don't know what they are, these trees that line the streets out in the city. They drop all these filaments everywhere. So let me just lower the brightness a little bit on the camera. Not the camera, the light. So I actually changed my setup a little bit so you can now see my palette. So a few people gave some feedback last time saying it might help if you could see me actually paint, mix up paints and stuff like that. So let me know whereabouts you're from and in the chats, and feel free to chat amongst yourselves as well. You know, make a friend or two, who knows. We've got on YouTube Rebecca Art Manchester, and saying it's all good here in the UK. Fantastic. What time is it for you there, Rebecca? I don't usually get too many people from the UK because around this time it's apparently bedtime for you guys. So thank you for coming along. And got Pamela as well. Good morning from Bully. How you going, Pamela? Haven't seen you for a while. We've also got Ellen and Pamela. So both previous students or students of mine. So thank you for coming along. It's been a while. So let me introduce myself very quickly for those of you who really don't know who I am. My name's Darren Yeo, and I'm an artist over in Melbourne, Victoria. So I run these free watercolor sessions once a month over here. And today we're going to be painting this scene of Prague. And it's actually quite an interesting reference photo. There's so much going on here. And really, I want to simplify all these details. But I did mention in the comments of the event that I'm also going to crop the picture slightly as well. There's just so many buildings here on the left. And I want to get in a bit of the dome and also this clump of trees here in the center of the reference photo. So I think I'll crop it around about that point. Otherwise, we're probably going to be here for a while. And I do think the composition will look better with it cropped that way, because then we'll have the center of interest, which is that area of that start of the bridge, kind of in the first third of the scene. And happy Thanksgiving, Mary, and for anyone over in the States. I don't really celebrate Thanksgiving here, but yeah, I think everyone likes all the Black Friday sales and things like that coming up. We've got Sue from Sussex, and yeah, it looks like it's about 12 a.m. in Manchester. Okay, so it's not too much of an unholy hour, but probably nearly bedtime. And Shanolan, how you doing, Shanolan? Another one of my students who've been watching for quite some time. Trying to keep my eye on the chats, and I'm multitasking, guys. So real quickly before we start, I'm just letting you know how the session's going to unfold and generally how I run these things. So firstly, we'll be going through the drawing. Okay, that's hopefully not going to take too long, maybe 15 minutes or so. And I'll take a short break in between, maybe grab some water, and I'll also talk a little bit about a course that I'm running, and that'll probably take about 5 minutes, just give everyone a chance to catch up and also for me to chat about this course. After that, we're going to run through the actual painting. So that's going to be the bulk of this session. and you're going to see my entire process. I know for a lot of you, it's quite difficult when you're starting out watercolors, just knowing essentially how to plan and compose your painting and how to layer in watercolors, what colors to choose. There's just so many questions, but I'm going to show you my entire process from start to finish so that you can take a photograph like this and change it and paint basically a simplified, loose version of it. Okay, most of my paintings take about an hour or a bit longer. I think in these sessions I tend to take a little bit longer just so that I can explain things to people. If you have any questions, let me know in the chats. I can see the chats are really taking off, and I do my best to answer questions. So while I'm here and I'm live, I think it's a great opportunity for you guys to yeah, just drop a question there. If you're not sure what I'm doing, or perhaps I'm not explaining something in enough detail, let me know. It's the only way I can figure out whether you guys are getting what you need from this session. But thank you so much for your time. Thank you for coming along and dedicating your, well, for me, it's a Saturday morning, so it might be Saturday morning for you guys, or even your Friday evening. So, alrighty. We've got Sue says in UK, my daughter's currently in Melbourne, though may not be able to stay long. That's okay. Stay for as long as you need to. And this session also will be recorded, but I would love for you guys to hang around so we can go through it together, and also so you can ask some questions. Keith's asking, did you say we're painting the first third? So we're going to be painting from about the trees in the center, that little dome in the center left, over to all the way to the right. So when I was mentioning the third section here, I'm talking about the start of the bridge. I just wanted that kind of in that section. So grab a pencil. I've got this, I don't know what it is. It's a mechanical pencil, and it's got a thicker sort of lead on it. And I use something like this just so that it's easier, so I'm not fussing around and trying to figure out exactly all the little details. So thicker lead, but use whatever pencil you have. I mean, some of you guys, and I've just run out of leads in there. I think I've got another one in there. It's funny that this kind of thing happens just as I'm starting a new drawing and it's live. But there we go. At least I don't have to run and grab one from my pencil case. So let's go ahead and get started, everyone. So in the center, basically we're looking at the reference photo. And for those of you who are not sure about the reference photo, if you're not sure where it is, I'm just going to I might just link that for you, because I have a little version of it in the corner of the screen, but it's probably a little bit tricky for you to see. I know some people struggle seeing it, so just give me one moment and I'll find the link to the reference, and you can check in the chats for it. So it's just in the discussion section actually of the event. So if you're wondering where it is, here it is. I've just pasted it into Facebook so that you can grab that reference. Better if you open it up in a separate window as well. Just also put it into the YouTube chats in case you guys are wondering where that reference is. So you can also magnify your screen, just enlarge your screen. You should be able to see it. Okay. You know what I'm going to do? I might just move this palette for a moment. Knowing me, I sort of dunk my arm in it and then I get all this paint and stuff running down my arm while I'm drawing. I will zoom in a touch as well. That's with the camera, so you can see a bit closer. The camera appears, the light appears a little bit darker, but I have to do this to make sure. Make sure you can see the pencil lines. So having that reference picture up, just checking roughly where I want to put it in the bridge and all the details. Okay. All right. So firstly, let's go ahead and get in this line. It's kind of that line that separates the water from the buildings. I always look at that simple stuff first, and you have to get in this line fairly accurately. Okay, so if we look at the center of the page, I mean, we can always mark out the center of the page roughly here, yeah? All right, and if we compare where that bridge hits the water, I mean, it's roughly around here. I mean, it's about a quarter of the way, maybe a little bit further than a quarter of the way up from the page. So I just tend to mark this in very loosely to start off with, okay? And this may change later. I've been, I've under or overestimated at times, but this is the most important part of the scene that you have to get in, okay? Because if you get this part incorrectly, everything else will be drawn in relatively correct from this line, okay? If you put it too high up, there's not going to be enough room for the sky. If you put it too low, you're not going to see enough of the water, okay? So one of the most important things with painting is to have a vision and have an idea of what you want to have in the final painting, and composition, thinking about where you're placing objects, where you may be emphasizing certain bits and pieces. So I'll talk about this throughout the drawing and also my painting to just give you an idea of what I'm thinking. And we've got Yvonne here. How you going, Yvonne? Thank you for joining. And what I'll do is I'm going to mark the center of this page right here, right this, the center section. Now, I'm thinking maybe the dome can be about here. Okay, there's this sort of dome that's there. Okay, but in the center, we will put the beginning of this bridge. Okay, beginning of the Charles Bridge, and I'm going to go across. Just put in. The drawing can be quite tricky at times, but always remember that it is just a drawing. It's just a plan, general plan of what you're doing. It doesn't have to be perfect, but at the same time, I try to get it in as accurately as possible. Okay, and we can see here this bridge has kind of like four four arches in here. We put the center arch about here. Okay, we've got another arch about here and another arch here. Okay, I would mark the arches first, then it just makes it a little bit easier. I don't have to estimate exactly where they all go while I'm drawing. So simplify first. There's one, and here's another here. Oops. Yeah, there's a third here. Okay, another one here. All right, so we've got four arches, four simplified sort of arches. One of the important parts of this scene is working out the element of light, and on the bridge is an important part, and that's this little sunlit area under the bridge. So as you can see, I'm just drawing a bit of this, a bit of that bridge that sticks out and catches the sunlight. Can you see that? Okay, really important to have this bit on here, because that's going to just create some extra contrast and light coming in from that right hand side of the scene. Okay, so I've got very simplified version here. Okay, there's bits and pieces and details in the actual bridge itself, but again, I'm not fussed about all the tiny little details. We just want to get in, make sure we've got these four arches. Another interesting thing is that you've got these shadows that cut across this area. Okay, I'm going to think about that, but don't worry too much about marking out those shadows just yet. Okay, let's try to get these arches, these four arches. Okay, and even if you got in a simple indication of it, that's going to be fine. You're going to be able to tell that this is a bridge. Okay, so that's the main part of the bridge here. So let me know how you're going, guys, if you need help, and also if you've got any stories of Prague, if you've been to Prague before, it'd be great to hear some of your experiences and what you thought of it. I was actually here, I think in 2019. It's my first ever trip to Europe, and beautiful, absolutely beautiful place. And it's one of those places, kind of like Venice, that you see photographs of, and you think, you know, it actually looks as good as the photographs. So what am I doing here? So that is like that is the light bit. Yep, there. Good. Just making sense of all this. Okay. All right. Good. So we've got this part, this sort of beginning section of the. I'm not sure what this is called. It's like a tower, yeah. But it comes down. Whoops, kind of a bit further actually, about here. Okay. And this, I think this tower is quite an important feature to get in right as well, because you've got. I mean, it's just the the iconic sort of part of the bridge. I don't really remember what it was called though. So if you guys have an idea, remember, let me know. But you kind of walk underneath it from the street, and then you end up on the bridge. Okay, so it's just a box. Look at shapes and think of them as boxes, or look at this as like a semicircle. This one needs a little bit of work, but you know what? Make do. I'm gonna sharpen it up a bit later. This is a big rectangular shape, and if you look at things as shapes, you're going to have a much more easier time drawing than to think, hey, I've got to get this building in, and suddenly it becomes something that looks more abstract and difficult to draw. So simplifying your mind. Here's a little arch, that little door there. Gate. There's actually a wall, and this wall runs all the way across. But in front of this wall, there is all this this large clump of trees and what you call it, like just a large clump of trees and bushes near the water. So what I'm doing here, I'm just marking out its general shape of it while I'm in that section. I think I've drawn it a bit too wide, so I am just gonna modify. I'm checking, just checking everything to make sure that it's roughly in the same, in the right proportions. It's tricky, but you need to make sure that tower is not too large, or it's not too small as well. Okay. So on the top of that tower, you've kind of got, look at that, it's like a triangle. If you think about it, like a triangle or something there. And this part there that just goes across, down like that. There. I think this probably should come up more like that. Yep. Okay. I'm always in this constant state of adjusting things when I'm drawing. I'm not the best at drawings, but I make do for sure. And it's something that I had to learn to enjoy when painting watercolors, because a lot of people, I think, don't spend enough time planning their drawing. And by the time you get to your painting, if you haven't got a good drawing in there, you're not going to have any idea of where all the shapes go. So that's why I try to emphasize spending the time when you're drawing, but at the same time, not overthinking everything and getting too worried about all the little details. I try to put in most of the details once the painting is done. Sorry, the drawing is done. We're not done with the painting yet. Okay, so just marking out some little areas. You can see windows and stuff up the top. There's another one there. All this stuff we'll get in later. Okay, in the background, look at this. We've got like kind of little houses off in the back. And the interesting part of this is that they actually overlap with parts of the bridge underneath as well. So, that's another house. It's kind of got a triangular top. Comes down like this. Okay, that's another one. You've got one with the kind of trapezoidal or rectangular type of rooftop there. coming down. I'm also looking and making sure that the roof is not too much larger than the first part of this bridge as well. I'm kind of thinking I might need to raise that a tiny bit further up, but we'll see how we go. There's another one. And let's have a look. Where does this one sort of finish? Roughly here. Okay. Yeah. And, they're just little boxes. If you look at them as little boxes in the background, that's the only way I can actually draw these in, because otherwise it just is overwhelming, and you spend too much time fussing over all the little details. I'm thinking to myself, does this need to be a little bit... I think the height of the building is actually fine. It's just this... I think it's just this top part of it. I want to lengthen a touch. We can just add in another bit up the top here. Okay. So don't be afraid to readjust things and add extra detail in if you think it's necessary. Okay. I always have to fuss a little bit around with this part. It's such an important section of the scene. Okay, I think that's good enough. I'm getting a bit precious about it. So back to these buildings, and guys, if you have questions, let me know. Let me know in the comments as well. I'm just sort of monitoring it every now and then. Diane Zimmerman's here as well in the chats, and Diane runs an awesome group. Some of you guys might know, it's called Watercolor Beginners and Beyond. So I think we started both of our groups roughly around the same time, or Diane, you might have started yours before, but it's a great little group that she's got going, and search it up on Facebook and join. I think it's really great community and friendly community as well. So Diane says she was in Prague in November 2019. Beautiful city. I think I was around the same time as well. I was there around September. Otherwise, we might have bumped into each other. So here we go. Back to these buildings. It's actually got part of the rooftops or whatever exposed back there. Can you see that? You got these triangles, okay, that form the first part of the roof, and then that kind of sideward section there of the buildings. There's a shrub or something here. Okay, let's show shrub. All these buildings, you can see they have little windows everywhere. Okay, don't need to draw them in. You can mark them out like I've done, but you don't need to put too much effort into that. There's even some buildings off in the background. A lot of this is going to be painted in just one big silhouette. Okay, now this clock tower, let's measure it. So we know that the top of this clock tower kind of stops here. It's oops, these little bits and pieces up the top here. Hang on, there we go. The clock tower stops right at the top of where this other tower finishes, and it's just a box. I have to always remind myself, Darren, think of it as a general shape, because if I start thinking too much, suddenly it becomes this complex thing that then is a pain to draw. So it's just a box. If you can draw a cereal box or something like that, you can draw this in. Okay, and just getting it down like that. There we go. That's kind of enough. I wanna this eraser. It's not the best, but it does the trick. I believe if you look at the buildings and things like that here, you notice I'm leaving, or I'm drawing in the side of the buildings like this. So here, 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 and here. Very important, because the light source is coming from the right. So we're going to leave out some of that warmer color on the sides of these buildings. So that's why I spend a bit of time, just getting that sort of 3D quality of the buildings in, making sure we've got a proper edge on the right hand side. So that's more or less what we've got going on in this clock tower. I mean, it's not perfect, but it does the trick. Does the trick. Looks like a clock tower to me anyway. Right? So we've got that in. Let's have a look at what have we got here in the background. Again, there's so much detail, and we can sit here all day and try to get it in, but it's just a box. Okay, for this larger building in the background, there's kind of like a funny rooftop there. That's just the side of the building. You know, really we've got the top of it like that, and then an interesting sort of design on the top part of the building like that. I mean, I'm not gonna try to get in everything exactly there. You know, here's the side of another building. You know, as you move further to the back, you're going to find that you don't need to add in all these little details because they fade off anyway. And I find that if you imply less details in the background, it actually pushes or it creates this sort of illusion of depth. Okay, yes, now more confident with this bridge, and so this is why I'm drawing it in a bit more. Okay, like this. I'm more confident to mark in where it is, right? And you know, again, start to define some of these small details on the bridge, but just having a look. This one's a bit wonky. Look at that. It's a little bit wonky, but I can fix that up. Just bring that more further down like that. There we go. We've just fixed that up. So you're going to make the arches roughly around the same angles. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect, but yeah, just some degree of accuracy is important. Okay, what was I doing? Back here, there's something here. There's some kind of building here. I don't know what this is. Looks like a something like that. Okay, it's all so far in the distance. It doesn't matter. You know, this part of the building here is kind of funny. It's like a kind of rounded edges on the back. This building there. You know, and again, it's so small at the back. It's really nothing much you need to do there. There are figures and people here on the bridge. And you actually notice within this the little sections here of the bridge, like here, here, and here, there's like these statues that line the bridge. And I was reading about the history of these statues, and I think these are not actually the original statues. They have rebuilt them in there. But you can see lots of people kind of walking along the bridge, and we're going to actually get some of those people in later. But for the time being, this is enough detail. We've got most of that stuff here on the right-hand side in already. Still to be confirmed whether we want to bother, with the boats. There's a question from Tammy, and she's asking, do you intend to raise the pencil after you've painted it? No. So when you actually start your painting and finish it off, you're not going to be able to see the pencil. It looks like you will be. Probably in some sections you see some of the pencil peek through, but in most cases, I'm not able to actually see that pencil work come through. So now all these buildings on the left-hand side are quite complex, and again, later when I'm painting it, I'm actually going to go through and do it try to get in more of a larger silhouette of it. But you can see here, there's just this kind of building off in the distance. Okay, and I think this is going to be good because it helps create a contrast. This is going to be a shadow on the left side of this part of the bridge. Okay, and you've got this really interesting building here. How can I simplify this? I'm just asking myself how to simplify this. Well, we've got to get this kind of, where do you go? This wall here. It kind of goes down, doesn't it? Look at that. It's kind of like a kind of weird steppy thing. Whatever. Up there. There you go. It's part of it. And this huge block of buildings with the dome. How are we going to do this? Rectangle? Something like that. Rectangle. There's some trees and stuff here. We've got the other side of the rectangle. I'm also being wary to compare it to this. It's yeah, there we go. So the roof kind of starts and finishes here. Yeah, there. What have we got? We've got just this another part of the tower there, and this dome as well. Measuring up roughly where to put that dome in. Here. There, that's just the dome. And the top part of the dome, which pops out like this. Okay. Top part there. There we go. And we have this a simplified dome running through the top like that. And of course, you've got these windows. We'll get them in afterwards. These buildings have a separation in the center as well, like that. Ooh, this is getting tricky, isn't it? Another separation here. And here. Yeah. And you've got all these windows and things here, and you can spend all day doing it, but I am not going to do that. And sometimes I just like to simplify buildings like this one here. I'm just going to simplify that down and get this lighter sort of building in front like that. Okay. As you guys know, a lot of these buildings in Europe are just so detailed, and the architecture is just amazing. And but when you're drawing, you have to find ways to simplify them down. Otherwise, you're going to be drawing most of the time rather than doing any painting. Okay, so this here is the basis of our painting. I'm going to just outline the bottom part where the water is here. Oh, I've forgotten one thing, an important thing. So these buildings actually have a bottom to them. As you can see, they kind of finish off around here. Okay, so put in the rest of those buildings so they do make sense off in the distance. Okay, and the water probably, yeah, will start about there, but you know, you can see that building starts there. You know, part of it pops down or something like that, right there. Important section where I can just get in a bit of shadow there or something like that next to the bridge. Okay, sussing out where the shadows are going to run as well. I think I'll get a bit of wet and wet for that part. Okay, the boats. I mean, there's little boats here. I'm gonna just look. Let's just get in something like that. Just the top part of the boat. And I really try to simplify these down. I don't want to have too much going on in there for the boats. It's tricky to see it as well. It looks like there's a little flag as well. Whether I'm going to get that in the end, we'll see. You know, there's all bits and pieces and details and things here, but just simplifying it down. Okay. Some general little shapes, boxy looking shapes. Yeah, this boat. I am thinking, I'm really tempted to just leave it out. Decisions. Look, I'll put it in, and if I can always erase it afterwards. But sometimes these boats can kind of they either make or break a scene, really. If you put it in, it becomes another area of interest in the scene. If you leave it out, the water might look a bit too kind of dull, and with not enough activity in there. So this kind of tells a story as well of a nice little, you know, a nice day. People out on a bit of a cruise. Okay. It's just a kind of boxy like shape like this. I'll probably have to add some more details of this in afterwards. Anyhow. Okay. But I think that should do it for the drawing. I'd love to hear what you guys think so far, and also give you a bit of time to catch up with this. And in the meanwhile, basically in the meanwhile, I'm just going to go through a really quick presentation. It'll only take about 5 minutes of a course that I have running. It's something that I go through every now and then when I run these sessions, or anyway for the last few ones. So I'll bring it up, and I'll keep an eye on the chats as well if you have some questions. But this is the program that I have running, and it's been going on now for I don't know how long, probably a year and I'd say about a year since I made the first course. Initially, it was a 30 course program, and there's a whole bunch of bits and pieces in here that I'll go through with you. Basically, in this course, it's all of my knowledge just combined together, and 58 courses. It continues to grow as I add to it. One of the things I noticed with a lot of beginners is that there's a few topics that you guys struggle with the most, and when you're first starting out, especially, it's very difficult to be confident in your painting because you don't really understand how to create perspective. You don't understand drawing like we're doing today. I think that's a good thing so that you can be able to plan your painting. Because sometimes when you actually start out painting, you realize that maybe buildings are too large, or they're too small, or it just doesn't have that three-dimensional quality that you see in your reference photo. So I go through that in all of the all of the videos in this program. Timing is really important. I think timing is something that people struggle with in terms of when do you use certain techniques. How do you actually, do you wet the paper first, or do you paint directly on to dry paper? And how often do you need to add paint into an already wet area? So cover that, brush techniques and water control. Again, another thing that I really focus on in this course. So making sure that you've got enough water on your brush if you're painting a really large area. So for example, in this particular scene that we're doing, the Prague scene, the sky is a huge component and the water is a huge component. So you want to make sure that you've got enough paint mixed up there, and especially the right consistency. So I talk about how much paint you need versus how much water you need. So normally I refer to things like, I'm using 10% paint, 90% water, and that's going to give you a much clearer understanding of how to mix your paints. And I'll do that today as well anyway, so to show you how I sort of explain things. Tone, magic component. That is really something that took my paintings to the next level, knowing how to create light and darkness in your painting. Because if you don't have a sense of light and darkness, your painting's gonna look really flat. And that's something that I was really annoyed with in the beginning. So I'll show you how to do that. Layering as well, how I layer colors. And normally I paint with about 2 layers, and then a third sort of finishing layer where I just add in bits of color, darker colors here and there. Choosing colors is a tricky thing for everyone, really. But you'll realize after today's session, and also if you sign up for my program, that you only need a few colors. I mean, even if I just had my 3 primary colors, red, yellow, and blue, that's enough. Okay, maybe a bit of gouache as well. A lot of companies try to sell you 20, 30 colors, especially those cheaper sets that have 20, 30 colors. You don't need those. You only really just need three colors, and you can mix almost every color with that. Vision. So I talked a bit about vision at the start of this session, and that sort of involves planning. So making sure that you've got an idea of where your focal points are in the painting. Thinking about the color choices you're using as well. Thinking about what type of scene you want to apply. Do you want to apply a kind of rainy day? And, I was thinking even about that boat that we put in there. Should I put that boat in or not? Because, is it going to detract from the rest of the scene, or is it going to add? It just really depends. And I think having that plan when you first start out is one of the most important things, so that you know where you're heading, you know where the end state and what your goal is in your painting. So here are some of the paintings and things like that are included in my program. I'll run through this in a little bit more detail at the end of the session. I don't want to spend too much time actually going through all this now, but thought I would trial just running this presentation a little bit earlier on. So for those of you who maybe have to head off to sleep or something like that, can know a little bit about it. Just helps me get my courses out there a bit more. Here are some of my ratings as well. So you might just sort of be wondering about what students think of my courses. I teach on different platforms, and Facebook is just one of them. And this course that I have, this program, is one that I sell personally, so that I don't have to go through these platforms. I find that it's just a lot less dramas, and I can run it the way that I want to. So there's a few things that you get with this program. The first thing is that you get tailored feedback. So 2 months from the start of the program, you'll be able to contact me, and even afterwards as well, you're part of this group. So I actually go through all the comments in the group, and even if you message me directly, I'll get back to you. So the most important thing is you can save time by learning how I think, and this is one of the things that you'll notice in today's session, that I go through how I think about thinking. It's kind of hard to explain it, but I talk a lot about what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, and why I'm doing it, and I find that helps you guys to understand what's going through my head, so you can apply that same process and strategy to what you're doing. Again, you get that access to the group. Initially, I had 30 courses in here. Now there's 58. Actually, I've got another 3 or 4 that I've got to edit and add on. Keith was asking about a Venice scene that I was doing. I also did a nice couple of natural landscapes as well, which I'll edit, put on there. I've been focusing on just doing 1 demonstration per course these days, but in the previous courses, sometimes even 15 demonstrations in each of the courses. There's a lot of material in there. You also get access to all the previous live workshops without any ads. So all these workshops, I think I've got about, I remember, nearly 40 plus now in there. So that is the price. Now for November, because it's, there's all these Black Friday sales and stuff like that, I've decided for the first time to discount it down to $249 US. It's a lifetime access as well. So you get access to all 58 courses plus any other future ones that I make. I've also got a Patreon, so check in the description and you can have a look there as well. It's in the description, and I'll show you if you're unsure. I haven't actually got the chats up at the moment because I've got all the this presentation running, so I'm a bit low on screens. But that's it, guys. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about it before I get started. Actually, with the scene that we're doing today. Thank you so much for your patience with that, and listening to me talk about my course. So guys, let me know how you're going. We've got a few people that have just joined. We've got Andres from Costa Rica, and Yvonne says, well, all his courses need to give out degrees. Don't get me started with degrees. It's funny these days. So it seems like degrees are a dime a dozen. All right, Margaret Edmondson says, can't paint now, watching American college football. No worries. Well, thank you for joining it anyway, and checking out Margaret. No, Margaret was wondering about the reference photo, how we were going to cover and draw this. And I think with a lot of these demonstrations that I run, I always try to have a little surprise in there. I have the reference picture, but I always change things up here or there. And I think having that level of uncertainty is important for you guys, because you're not going to get everything perfect the first time round. And so I think you got to leave a bit to your imagination, a little bit of spontaneity in there. Because if you plan everything out too much, I think you miss out a bit of that magic. Okay, so here is my palette on the side, and you're going to be able to see how I mix up the colors. Something new that I wanted to do. I've noticed a few other artists have like a separate camera, but I like to just fit it all onto one. Just makes things simpler. simpler from my end, even if you can see part of it, just the mixing wells. I think that's going to be the important thing. Okay, so a few paintbrushes that I'm going to be using. These are mop brushes, watercolor mop brushes, and they are essentially brushes that that carry a lot of water, and it's tricky to kind of tell. But if you look at them under a little bit closer, they have these bellies, so they're kind of a little bit larger around the center, and these brushes hold water. I also use this brush here. It's like a round brush, just a little synthetic round brush. Doesn't hold much water, but great for getting in details. That's essentially it for this painting. Okay, I'm probably only going to use a couple of these brushes altogether. So first things first, I want to get in the warmth of these buildings, and we're looking at a consistency, a very, very light consistency. When I say light, I'm talking about 10% paint and 90% water. So I've got a bit of yellow ochre here. I thought I'd start out with the yellow ochre, and I've also got some other yellows. Now, the quality of light here is something I really enjoy. I really like in this scene, and making sure that I think we've got this kind of bit of golden light on parts. So this is some quinacridone yellow that I've got here, but you can use whatever yellow that you've got, like that. And I'm just painting really the entire bits here. Okay, and you're gonna think to yourself, well, all these buildings are not entirely yellow. That's true. But we're going to go over the top of them later with some extra dark paint, so you won't see that stuff later. Okay, there's different kinds of yellows in here as well. It's funny, and I can always get bogged down and in spending too much time just picking these little colors and adding them in and adding in different. I've got a lemon yellow, for example, and I might put some of that lemon yellow there and here. Lemon yellow has more of a saturated sort of color. Okay, difficult to see. Might actually, if I can zoom in a little bit, maybe that will be easier for you guys. How's that? Hopefully that's a tad easier, and just increase the brightness. Okay, is it in focus? Yes, it's in focus. Okay, so that's all I'm doing. I'm just putting in a bit of color. If you've got just different types of yellows, pop them in there. If you've only got one type of yellow, doesn't matter. Just go with that. Okay? And I'm pretty much just painting over the top of everything in this yellow. Some of the buildings have like a kind of white section, even on the right-hand side. You can leave some white in there if you'd like. No big deal. Just as long as you make this quite light. So you're using mostly water in this mix. In watercolors, you need to make sure that you've got enough water in this first wash. It allows you to get in that nice soft area. I've forgotten those buildings, paint those buildings down below, so I'm just going to go over the top of them. So for simplification purposes, I'm not going to put too many colors in here. Okay, I don't want to overwhelm everyone. Look at that, it's just a bit of yellow. If you can get some of that in, that's all you need. And oops, yeah, just a bit of color in there. We're not detailing, all we're doing is just getting in some kind of a background color for these buildings. There's a lot of yellow in here. If you look at it, it's just mostly kind of yellow, different types of yellow. I might mix in, for example, got a bit of titanium white and yellow here, so it just kind of makes a creamier sort of yellow, almost like a Naples yellow. It was a color I used to buy until I realized I can just mix it up myself. I think a lot of colors are like that, really. But I do have some favorites and some favorite premixes that I find very difficult to mix up on my own. So there we go, just a bit of that wall. Okay, and try to paint everything as well with as little fuss as possible. There's a bit of blue here on this. Can you see just a little bit of bluish color? Let me just dry off that brush. It's kind of a bit of cerulean-y color for this dome. So I'll just drop in a bit of that blue. Okay, look at that, just a touch of that. and hopefully that will melt into the rest of the rest of the building. Even here, I thought there's a bit of blue. Just drop in a bit of cerulean blue. If you don't have cerulean blue, just a lighter blue color. Even these sort of bits and pieces, they have a element of coolness in it. And warm and cool colors is something that I want to always refer to and talk to you guys about as well, because rather than looking at specific colors, I just look at whether it's warm or cool. It just makes things a lot simpler. Simpler. So there we go, bit of that in there. All right, what have we got in here? We've actually got these trees, and I like to leave these this kind of bit in for the end, so I'm not fussing about too much and accidentally mixing green. So I've got a bit of this color here. It's called undersea green. It's a granulating green color. Just get a little bit of that Hansa yellow in there as well. Just light it up. Okay, this really sort of soft wash of green, and I'm doing this while the buildings are still kind of wet, so that it will blend in a bit to the buildings. Okay. Actually, that part of the bridge is more yellowy here. Let me just redo this part of the bridge. Bit of yellow here. There. Good enough. Okay. What else do we have in this section? We've got a bit of darker green. I can just drop in some more darker green. Wet into wet. Waiting for this to just dry slightly, or just soften down a bit. And I'll just put in a bit of extra green in here. Like that. There we have it. There, a bit there as well. Okay, can we darken this off? Can we get some really dark bits in here? There we go. It's just, I find this painting some of this stuff wet into wet makes it a lot easier, and I get this soft, beautiful, soft sort of look in there. I have a bit of grey here, Payne's grey, and I'll just drop in some of this stuff in the base and areas of this bush, shrub, whatever it is. Okay. Should we have a bit more yellow? A bit more yellow in some parts there. Got a tiny bit of white gouache. I think I can just drop in there as well. But yeah, that should do. That should do the trick for this sort of shrub here, or tree. It looks like a shrub closer to the front. Okay, so let's go ahead and work a bit on the water and also the sky. Now, what I'm going to do, actually, I've got a spray bottle. Something I forgot to tell you guys about. Little spray bottle. I'm just going to fill it up with some water. If you don't have one of these spray bottles, it's no big deal. It's just a personal thing I like to do. And I'll just wet the sky a bit, okay? If you go over the top of the buildings a touch, it's no big deal. A little bit of the bottom part of the paper as well. Trying to skip over the boat. Okay, this is just going to pre-wet the paper a little bit and make the water come down a little bit better, a little faster. And firstly, I think I'm going to go with the sky first. So a bit of cerulean in the sky. Look at that. Drop that in. It's quite a... I mean, the cerulean I'm using is quite strong, but be okay. Let's just, again, just spray this area a touch. And you can also just pre-wet an area with your brush. Of course, that's the most obvious thing to do, like that. And here I am, just going through with some of this cerulean that I got. Okay, you notice pretty much on the top of the scene, you've got really darker areas of blue. Sometimes I mix in a little bit of this other blue, which is ultramarine, darker sort of ultramarine. Okay, I want to do this fairly quickly. I don't want to spend all day on these clouds. Now, I think what I'll do is actually get in most of it and then lift off some clouds. And also we'll leave some of the white on the paper. Okay, but look at that. Just drop in this color in the sky. I'll zoom out actually. This is getting a bit difficult for you guys to see. And I'll lower the brightness as well. Just lower that down slightly. Okay. There we are. That's a bit better. Yvonne's asking, did you switch up brushes? So I've used pretty much the same mop brush. As you can see, it's just a little mop brush. Okay, so we'll go through the sky, really just a bit of wet and wet work. And as you get closer to the buildings, just pay a bit more attention so that you are cutting around them. Okay, like that, because we don't want this blue going into the buildings. A little bit, if it bleeds down, parts of it bleeds down, that's okay. But generally speaking, you want to avoid too much of that blue in there. So you'll notice that when I paint over the top of these buildings, or I sort of cut around them and leave a little bit of white space. Okay. Sometimes what I find as well is that if you're looking for a contrast on this area, you might actually add in some more blue here, for example. Okay, look at that, just an extra blue here. And that creates a little contrast, extra contrast with the tower. So, I'm just experimenting around, something I didn't even think of doing before. But, you never know unless you try it. And I've done this sort of thing before and it's worked out. So I thought, okay, why not? Just add in a little bit of extra blue here. There we are. And a lot of this, you'll notice, is just done wet into wet. And I think that's one of the most magical things about watercolors. For some reason, the cerulean I've got has all these forms these odd little bubbles everywhere. It's not usual. It's not a normal thing. So I have to go over the top and just get rid of some of those bubbles in a moment. But you might be able to see them kind of forming here. While the paper is still wet, you can modify and just change some of these things. That's always important to do while you've got that wet paper. Okay, so having a look at the sky, maybe a bit more of this blue up the top as well, in the top section of the painting. I find that's a good, just helps to create extra feeling of depth, because technically the top part here, the clouds at the top are, they're closer to you. I'm thinking a bit of, I don't know, a bit of purple or something like that for some areas of the clouds would be good. I've actually got some grey and purple, which I can just mix together and do something like this. Okay, just drop in a bit of like a cloud shape. I mean, it's like just a cooler sort of color like that. A lot of stuff you can do while the paint is still wet. Wet and wet watercolors is just something I really love playing around with, and it's just magical. You never know exactly what it's going to do, but I always find that it creates some beautiful soft contrast that you're just not able to get in otherwise. Further down, you might have little bit smaller clouds or something like that, so just dabble in here a touch, a few bits and pieces of color here, just smaller clouds. I want this to be whole scene to just be composed of all these clouds, but I want some large ones as well. Notice here near the top, you might have like a larger one. Okay, here, look, I just join it on, like a big one like that here, and it starts to blend in nicely. Okay, like that. It's almost looking like more of a cloudy day, slightly cloudy day. And I don't mind how it looks at the moment, actually. I'm fairly pleased with the sky. Um, you know, sometimes with clouds, you get like bottom parts of the cloud which are a little darker. Um, a bit like that. Yeah. But this will blend in nicely with the sky. I think I'm going to leave it because I know that if I start fiddling around too much, I'm going to lose the that transparent quality of the watercolors. Okay. But practice this technique, guys. It's a game changer. It's really, really important. Okay, so similar to what we've done in the sky, we're going to do the same thing for the water. Wet the paper a bit below. If you don't have a spray bottle, just use your paintbrush. Pick up some clean water, fresh water, and go over the bottom of the scene. Okay. Just having a look. Who else do we have? A few chats here as well. Rebecca, there's a few questions here. Sorry, just picking up the chats from a few different areas. Rebecca says it's really interesting watch process, taking things step by step. I'm usually too overwhelmed by busy images, but I'm learning from you and like this simplification, explanation of boxes. Yeah, that's the only way I can deal with it mentally, Rebecca. Okay, the camera, I think the camera is in a decent place now, so you should be okay. What size mop brush are you using? Do you have a recommendation for the brand? These are just some mop brushes I got from Amazon, guys. There are a few companies that do them, and yeah, let me have a look. This is a size, oh, it's kind of rubbed off. 3-0, that center one's a 3-0, 5/0, and a 0. The size of it is just dependent on the type of paper you're using. So if you're using a larger sheet of paper, yeah, I would use something like, basically a larger brush, something like this or this one. Smaller sized paper, you only need a smaller brush. So I'd always recommend using the largest brush you can to paint in the details without, without basically, so you may have, just as long as you use a large brush so you can cut around the shapes, you're good. I try not to use too small of a brush because then I get bogged down in the details. I have to keep going back, picking up paint. It's kind of tricky. And Julie says, I think I'll lift some of the gray in the clouds. Yeah, that's another thing you can do as well. And I have another brush. It's like called a filbert brush. Where is it? It's somewhere here. But you can use any type of brush, really. Just get a bit of water and you can do something and just like sort of just tap on the paper like this. And if you've got a bit of tissue, you can actually go in and lift off like that. Just sort of, it's a bit of a little technique that I learnt a while back. And this, the paper's already starting to dry, so yeah, not too much I can do there anyway. But yeah, you can still go in. So for example, holding the brush the wrong way. Here, bit of water and just rub in that section, and then you have a little kind of highlight there. Okay, so that's a little trick you can do. Okay. Yeah, I did try to tone down that blue a little bit with some of this grayish, purpley sort of color in there. I think cerulean, especially ultramarine blue, can be a bit overpowering at times. Okay, let's go through. Let's go through to do the water now, guys. Water. And if anyone new here, just joining, let me know where you're from in the chats and how you're finding the session today. If you have any questions, just let me know. So, again, we'll wet this area, touch some water. Cutting around these little impressions of boats, really. Now, I'm going to mix up a bit of this blue color from the sky with a bit of grayish color. Okay, let's drop that in. Let's have a look how that appears. That's okay. Maybe a little bit more blue in there, like that. I always try to start out with a bit more, little bit more lighter color in the background. So I'm using more water as I'm in the back of the water, like that. And as I come forwards, I'm going to pick up more paint. Okay, and when you've already wet the paper, this is what happens. It sort of just blends in nicely. It's just a lot easier to paint. The paint flows into the areas where the water is. There, maybe a bit more, a little bit of Payne's grey, and what have we got? Maybe a touch of warmth, Payne's grey in there. Let's have a look. There is kind of this, as you can see, these little reflections on the water as well that we need to, I think we need to imply. Okay, so as we move down to the front of the scene, I'm just going to be using more of this grayish color. Okay, darker. That's too dark, but that's all right. Trying to just darken here more in the front. Okay, like that. A bit more of that gray here. All right. As long as we got some coolness in the water, we're going to be fine. So you want to just kind of try to match or mirror the sky slightly. Okay. So that's it. With like a general sort of wash over the top there. What I'm going to do is put in some little waves and things, and I'll use a smaller brush for this. Smaller round brush. Let's see what we can do. Maybe a bit of like gray color. And gray you can just mix up yourself, guys, with like yeah, a bit of your three primaries together. Yellow, blue, and red. Okay, so I'm just adding in a few little touches of color here, and this is yeah, just indicates some smaller waves or things running across the surface of the water. Okay, you find that the waves are actually a lot larger now down the bottom of the scene than they are at the top, so that's why I kind of go with sort of these larger, broader brush strokes here. And also I go a bit darker as well, and as you get through to the back, you know, just tiny little ripples are fine, just like this. Just drop in a bit of paint, and you notice that water is already pretty much dried, so there's not, you know, there's not really a sharp edge, a sharp sort of line in the background, if you know what I mean. Some parts have started to dry, so you do get a bit of that, but for the most part, you're all good. Look at that, and this, you know, just kind of looks a bit like ripples on the water. Yeah, ripples. Fantastic. I'm going to try to get in. This is something that I was a bit unsure about, actually, how to get in these reflections of the buildings. And I'm actually going to just do a bit of a quick one with this. Let's just see if I can get in a vertical kind of reflection running down like this. Okay, just a one line sort of thing, and we can just do the same thing for some of these other bits here. And more than likely, I think I'll have to actually add in some sharper reflections over the top, but I want to simplify this down and just get in a little kind of indication of the reflections here while we can. Okay. If you find that there's not enough water in there, to just spray it down again. Oops, running out of water. Okay. There. A bit of that. It's just a little indication of the reflections. I do think having some sharper ones in there will be good for later as well. But extra darkness at the, yeah, just where the buildings and things come down the page. There, what else do we got? Maybe a bit here as well. Really a lot of this whole section here. And there. And there. You know, even underneath this boat that we've got in, there's there. Okay. But yeah. Soft bit of color. And notice I'm just doing this all while the paint is still wet. Okay, so kind of adjust it as I go. Accidentally got a bit of paint onto that yellow, doesn't matter. Right. Lift off just a touch of that paint here. I think I've gotten rid of too much of that, of the light. Okay, so I think for a first wash, this is pretty good. So we are basically halfway through the painting. We're gonna go through and do the yeah, just all the shadows and things like that as well. I don't think I'll even need to dry it. It's pretty much dried already at the top. I'm going to check the chats. For those of you guys watching on YouTube as well, let me know if you have any questions. Good morning, Shirley. And who we got? Question about from Julie, and she's asking what type of paper. So it's yeah, it's cold press. So cold press or medium textured paper I'm using, and you can use rough paper. And the reason why I use it is you can get in a lot of these wet and wet soft sort of effects when you're using cold press paper. Hot press, it's a little bit harder. You can still get them in, but I find hot press just dries kind of in inconsistent manner. You get these because the paper is completely flat, so I find the water pools in areas, whereas if the paper has some texture in it, it kind of just works out. It just fills in all the nooks and crannies and automatically, so you get a smoother kind of blend. And for landscapes and yeah, even portraiture, I tend to stick with cold press these days. Sometimes I use hot press for portraits. Hope that answered your question. And thanks Julie. Yeah, for those of you guys who are interested in looking at some of my other courses, the program that I have running at the moment, there's two ways that you can enroll. You can check it out in the whatchamacallit, in the video description. So you can join on Patreon, or you can join on yeah, through the actual program link. So I'm kind of excited. I really love this part because getting in the shadows is so much fun for me. I'm going to use this brush here. It's a flat brush, odd kind of flat brush. But if you don't have one of those, just use a normal round brush. I've just been kind of getting back into flat brushes lately. I don't know why, but I find it just, yeah, I don't know. I just find it kind of fun to use. So we will have to firstly look at the bridge. Now, there is something going on here, and we've got these buildings in the background which are darker, a bit of light coming to the right of them, but that bridge is really, really dark. So I'm going to have to do that part of the bridge probably, yeah, fairly dark compared to the buildings in the background. I'm thinking, how can I do this all in one wash? I might leave a little line separating out that bridge, or I'll probably have to go over the top of it afterwards anyway. So let's mix up a dark color. I'm going to use, surprise, surprise, I'm going to use purple. A bit of brown mixed in there. Brown and purple. A bit of black. Black, brown, purple. I find this is a decent mix for what I like anyway. But you can mix in whatever gray you want, as long as you've got a darker color. And the consistency of paint that I'm using here is about maybe 20-30% paint. Because it's quite dark, I don't need to use too much of it. I can put in more water. Whereas before, pretty much the consistency of everything we'd been painting was about 10% paint and 20% water. So Let's just go for it. I'm gonna get in the side of this tower like that. Okay, and we want to look at the shadows. The shadows are basically formed on the side of this building like that, and actually the paper is still slightly wet, so I'm probably going to get some furry bits here and there. But I look, it doesn't matter. I don't mind. So here's the side of that building there, coming down like that. Okay, just in that grayish sort of color. I'm also going to adjust it and just make sure that I've got enough paint in there. It's always a thing where I've sometimes don't put enough in there. You've got this part of the bridge is almost as dark as the bridge section there as well. I'm going to do this part here on top as well. Oh, this is tricky. I don't know what I'm doing with this brush. I love using it though. It just can be tricky to get in these little details, but they tend to look sharper when you're using a flat brush. I don't know why. I don't know. It's just I feel like it's more rigid and the edges are kind of, especially when you're doing buildings, I find that, yeah, when you're doing buildings, I find that using a flat brush really helps. And we got like this little archway here. Just indicate that there. There. Okay. Unfortunately, as you can see, this part of this part of it's starting to bleed into the sky, unintended. And don't panic, Darren. I'm just going to lift off a little bit there. If it dries, I mean, if it goes in, no problem. And this is also a little, what I'm doing here is just softening that edge. Can you see that? Softening that edge so that it blends with the sky a touch. I know it seems like quite a small thing, but even here, see how I've just softened that edge? Creates this kind of atmospheric effect. Okay, I'm going to zoom in on the camera. How's the view, guys? Is this view okay? Stacy Hannon's asking, what artists inspire you? When I first got into painting, a couple of artists, a few Australian artists here, I went to a show, a guy called Joseph Zabukovic, and he does amazing landscapes, and he's got a couple of other friends that he paints with, and they're fantastic artists as well. Alvaro Castagne, there's Herman Pico. Of course, you got all the classics as well, like Turner. So, there's just so much talent and inspiration out there. So hope that answered your question, Stacey. That's all I can think of at the moment. Yvonne's asking, should I use a blow dryer? Yeah, look, you can use a blow dryer if you want. I thought it was dry enough for me to continue onwards, but it turned out it is slightly wet, this paper, so I probably jumped the gun too early, but you know what? Doesn't matter. I'm just going to continue anyway. Okay, this is a tricky one. Now we've got this bridge here, and how are we going to do this? Like that. Try to preserve the light on the bridge. Just try to go over the top like that first. Okay. There. These little bits and pieces over here as well, they're like kind of the spires and things sticking up like that. Just a little indication of that. I don't want to overdo it. But this bridge, I thought this is probably the only way I can get it in faster and sort of a bit darker than the rest of it, because I figure if the top bit runs down, it's not a big deal. I'm also mixing in a little bit of brown. I have noticed, like in person as well, this bridge has a kind of slightly warmer, browny tone. not tone hue to it. Okay, there. Just taking, taking my time. And I don't know why, but I just paint things so quickly, and I've been trying to slow myself down. Okay, let's have a look. How is this going? Good. I'm gonna have to suss out these bits of light better. Just coming across. Look at that. Okay, and remember to leave that slither of light visible under the bridge as well. Super important for later. And connects onto the ground a bit. Bit more darkness there. There we have it. I also sometimes leave in a little highlight, little bits of yellow showing through, and that just keeps things interesting, guys. So here we've got a bit of a small accident. So I don't have enough sharpness in that section, but we will make do. Good. Let's go into these buildings. I'm going to just get in some little bit of color behind. I will actually dry this off slightly, actually, with the hairdryer, now that someone mentioned it. It's just a bit too wet. Just drop my brush. There we go. Oh well, I've lost it. It's a brush we're not using anyway. Okay, so here is an important part because we are cutting around. We're doing this building in the background, but at the same time we are also leaving a bit of contrast on the side of that tower. So let me have a look. There, and remember to leave that slither of light like behind the buildings, like here. You see that? Okay. There's something like another building or something behind there. I'll just get that in there. Okay. I'm trying to find just a big shadow shape that can combine these all together. And again, near the bridge, I can just leave in little highlights and stuff in parts. What have we got here? I mean, this building has kind of got a touch of light on the hitting the roof, even like there. Down. And you want to make these buildings in the back a little bit lighter than the bridge. Okay, so I'm just adding more water into that mix to accomplish that. Okay, there, look at that. I'm stopping just slightly above the bridge. Here, there. Kind of goes up a bit like that. That bit of light there. You know, even little shadows that form on the edges like that. You know, there. You know, here we've got this part of the clock tower, which I'm going to just join on. It's got like a bit of darker color in there as well. You know, look at that. Just go over the top of it. And kind of like what I was saying before, leaving that right-hand side so that you can see the light showing through. That's like real important. There. You know, here, this building as well. Just you're coloring in like the left-hand side of it, and really I'm just using the same color. Okay, doesn't matter. It's just when you get in a bit of a shadow there. This building in the background, it's just quite dark anyway. The roof is a little darker, but I'm not gonna do too much. You know, if you look on the top of these buildings as well, there's all kinds of stuff going on. I don't even know what that is. It's like ornamental parts of the buildings. I mean, even did I miss something out here? No, I did. I missed the. What do you call it? Like a little dome thing here. So I'll just put that in. I forgot before. And just dabbing a bit of paint in areas on top of the buildings where I can see perhaps like a little spire or something going up. Oops, let's do this. Let's do this first. This clock tower there, and this big one up the top. Let's bring that down. There we go. Okay. I think that looks okay. Maybe put in a couple of windows or something like that already there. Look, we've got even some areas of windows and stuff here on the edge of the this side. There's all these little details, and they can be kind of tricky to do, but think of it as a bit of touch and go. Don't spend too much time in there. And I also I sort of paint, if you guys notice, in these odd broken lines. Like I won't paint an entire line for something a lot of the time. I'll just paint in part of it, part of that line. Another bit of that little detail. Can you see that? Just a very subtle bit of detail on the side there. Okay. A bit of that coming in. And Julie says, you inspire me. Same with Maria. Thank you, guys. I love having running these sessions. It really gets me pumped up, and also at the same time, I want to make sure that I'm giving you guys the best advice that I can provide to. Okay. There's actually like little sections in here that you can add in windows and things, but it's up to you. I mean, I really, you can use wet and wet to add in some more windows, or you can go in later. I'm probably going to go in later. What have I done here? For some reason, I've left out a bit of green. This should be green for the bush or whatever there, shrub. What are we doing? I'll add in some more color or something here on this side. I mean, just to dull down that section. There's even some, I don't know, I think there's some trees and things here as well. I'll just put in a bit of green to indicate that. Okay, just a bit of indication of that. Good. A little thing I need to really figure out as well is the shadow. Let's bring, forgotten this part of the building as well, but you can see like below the building carries on downwards. So I'm just trying to get in some of that building like this there next to that bridge. Okay, a little bit like that. I mean, not need a whole lot of detail. And also being careful to just cut around that light on the bridge. This is a tricky scene to do. I only just realized I always tend to pick ones that are challenging, but I haven't done something like this before, and I like to challenge myself. And what better way to do it than to do it live? Hopefully I won't make a fool of myself. So a bit of green back there. Now there is this shadow. This shadow underneath the bridge. Subtle. Let's try. I only got one chance to do it. So you can see that? Just a bit of that shadow there. That. Okay, just drawing in roughly that edge of it. And then I'll put in some paint here. How does that look? Not bad, not bad. I'll need to emphasize the structure of the bridge a bit more afterwards, but I think that looks okay. There's some light still, residual light left on the bridge, which I like. Let's go ahead and do the left-hand side of it as well, guys. Let's see. Look at that. There's a really big shadow just running. Let's mix up some more of this paint. Brown, grey, and a bit of purple. Okay. Brown, grey, and a bit of purple. There's a really, really sharp shadow here. Can you see that? Just runs like this. Where does it even go? Kind of here. Up to like part way through this building. Maybe. Like that. I like this shadow. I really like this shadow. I'm obsessed with light. The interaction of light and shadow, light and dark, fascinates me. That's why I like this reference photo as well. I try to pick reference photos that have a strong sense of light. Shadow looks a bit boring. I'm going to add some more darkness into it. Okay. Remember, this is like cast. This shadow is cast by the this shrub here. Keep calling it a shrub. This tree. This tree here. Soften that a bit. Can I just want to darken this shadow more. It's not dark enough. Like this. There we are. There we are. Yeah, just a bit more, maybe a bit of darkness in there too. Like that. Good. Of course, a lot of these buildings are so there's so much in the light that I don't want to muck that up. I just want to get in the rooftop, which is actually kind of a reddish brown color. I'm going to mix some red and brown together. Is it orange or red? Orangey, actually. Yeah, just put in a bit of orange. And burnt sienna probably is a good one to use. If you've got some burnt sienna, just use some of that for the rooftops. So there, look, I'm just indicating, yeah? I don't really want to spend too much time on it. But I want to get it roughly the level of detail that we've got on the right-hand side as well. So it doesn't look completely unbalanced. Okay. Here, there's a shadow on the left side of this building, which I'll get in like that. Sharp edge. And, of course, there's kind of like a building in front of it here. Oh, this bit's difficult to paint. It's really off the side of my canvas. And I'm in a very awkward position. You probably can't see the camera, but I'm in a very awkward position. Just get it in. All right. Good. Okay, I'm gonna look around. What else do we have to do here? Really, there's some shadows that kind of run down the edges of some of these buildings. Like, for example, here. On the dome, there's actually a bit of, you can actually see some of the details of the dome, but which I've just quickly painted in. But the left side of the dome actually has more light, more darkness, sorry. So I'm gonna just add in a bit of that darkness there. There's some windows and things. I'll add them in later. The goal here, guys, is just to get in some minor details and the shadows. Even here, I can just put in a bit of detail for the buildings and things like that, but it's not, it's not like a lot of detail, just a little bit here and there. The windows, I think, would probably be better if I, do them a bit later. Here, is this another sort of shrub here to the left? There. Because I'm right-handed as well, I find that the right side of my paintings turn out a little bit more detailed. Especially on camera, because I am trying to keep everything in frame. Normally, if you're doing this at home, move that bit of paper around and move everything around to whatever feels comfortable for you. I don't have that luxury of doing that here, but that's a little trick that will help you. What have I done? Okay. bottom of these bits and pieces. There, actually, got to put in a bit of this tree here, like the edge of it, like a shrub or whatever, like there. And I will keep some of that light as well on that shrub, like that. Okay. I think this is looking all right. Looking okay. I want to get in a few indications of the windows and things now. So all I like to do is just pick up a bit of darker paint, use whatever dark paint that you want, then dry off the brush, and you can just kind of dab in a few, as you can see, a few little indications of windows and things here in the buildings, like that. And even on the clock, for example, there might be a little bit of a shadow there. What have we got in there? Oops. Underneath the little sections like that here. Too much, doesn't matter. Notice I just sort of use my finger to rub out bits and pieces as well. The thing underneath the rooftop, maybe some little extra darkness could help. I don't know, imply detail like that. Something like that. And they just help to separate out the building slightly as well. Look at that, just these little dots there that indicate windows. And the interesting thing is, because a lot of this stuff is completely, it's not completely dried yet, you get a tiny bit of wet and wet. It just sort of mixes in nicely. And this kind of allows you, I'm using more paint here. As you can see, it's darker. Okay, it's darker, but just quick little impressions of windows. Okay, what we got on this side? There we go. Oops, too much. Quickly get rid of that. Okay, doesn't matter. You got to work with it. One of the things with watercolors, sometimes you just never know what's going to happen. The rooftop is actually a bit darker on this one, so yeah, all right, I'll just get that in a bit slightly darker, blend that in. As you can move into the background, look at that, it's just not really much that you need to apply there. Coming back to this bridge now, I did mention we would do well. Yeah, and did mention do well to put in extra details. I will just see if I got some darker color. Got a bit of black here. Just to draw out some details on the bridge. Like that. Here. I'm thinking whether I need to just darken that whole bridge another time, really. I think it would help if I just, we'll give it a shot. Just darken that bridge a little bit more. That's kind of still, well, parts of it is still slightly damp. Okay. I think that's better. It just looks now more like it's coming forwards. I try to get this right the first time round, but sometimes it's not. Yeah, just not able to do that. You have to readjust. Yeah, there's even edges like that I can perhaps quickly imply. It's tricky. Tell you what. Yeah. Maybe a little bit of darkness on the top of the bridge as well. Little statues. Look at that there. I just put an indication of these statues. Darker. Just got a bit of black. And they're kind of like in the center parts of the scene, like here, right? not the center part, see these little bits of the bridge that come into the water. They're just coming through like that. It's probably too tall, but doesn't matter. Getting some people wandering around that bridge as well later. Let's just try put in a few little bits and pieces for the other side. So just see, look at these little marks, really for the too much for the tower dome. Sorry, probably gone a bit dark up there, but it doesn't matter. Like that. And windows, bits and pieces of these windows that we have to apply. Simplify these down. I really don't want to spend all day on them. Like that. Okay. It's definitely a little less detailed on the left side. My painting's a bit less detailed on the left side than it is on the right hand side. Something I'll have to perhaps remedy, or I guess just deal with later. Don't think. There you go. Just soften that down, that dome down a little bit. I thought it looks a bit messy. There we are. There. We got, maybe just put in a bit of these little bits and pieces that stick out the top of the buildings. Here you've got a bit of that as well, and the look at that, chimneys and things like that. Yeah, just little chimneys. More black or contrasts here. I just want some more sharper looking shadows. More dramatic looking shadows, really. Like that. We are almost there. Almost there. A bit of this one here going up. Okay, touch and go. Just a bit of touch and go, really. Right. Let's have a look. What have we got here? Let's put in some sharper shadows for these boats and things like that. I did mention this before, thinking about how to put these shadows in, reflections on the water. So I'm just gonna kind of bring this down a bit. Do I have a bigger brush or something? Bigger flat brush. This will probably do the trick. A little bit bigger flat brush. So let's go ahead. I'm gonna just bring some of this down into the water. Okay, can I get like a little reflection there? Okay. These are boats and things as well. Okay. It's just kind of like a bit of dry brush. As you can see, I'm picking up that paint and just flicking it, dragging it downwards while the brush is still slightly wet. Like that. But it's mostly dry, mind you. It's just oops, directly downwards. I've gone too heavy with that one. The boat here, haven't done the boat as well. We've got to get some more details in for that boat. So look at that, just some little reflection like that on the water for the boat and the bridge. I'm trying to simplify this down in terms of the reflections. How does that look? Looks all right. This needs more, a bit more. And kind of joining up areas, just like little bits of maybe ripples and things in between, like that. Yeah, just little ripples or something. Here, let's get in a bit of color for that boat. I just want to get in the left hand side of it like that and simplify this down like that. Windows are pretty kind of squarish, aren't they? Some more. These little windows or something like that. And little detail on the side of the boat. I mean, there's even, I don't even know what that is. It's like parts of the boat that sort of, this ferry that stick out over the top, bits and pieces. I'll have to go over it again later. Especially the bottom of the boat, a touch of darker paint once it's dried will be good. Try to do it now even. It depends how, I mean, this looks pretty loose, as you can see, right? And then you've got, of course, these other boats and things here into the distance, and you can just do stuff like that. Just imply some details. Okay. A bit of darkness underneath. Like that. Okay. I'm going to try to add in a few little like birds or something in the sky, and then also some of the figures on the bridge. Let's brighten that up a little bit. Just a few little birds here and there. These kind of like V-looking shapes in the sky, like that. So if you've made it this far, you're doing very well. We've got quite a lot of viewers watching still, nearly 100, more than 100. Oh, Keith, I forgot to answer your question, Keith. I saw it in the chats. What color is that? Yeah, let me know which part you wanted to know. I'm not so sure which, I missed your message before, Keith. If you're talking about the bridge, I use like a kind of combination of brown, purple, and a bit of grey, a little bit of grey. Okay, I'm going to get in a few indications of some people on the bridge, and I've got some white gouache and a bit of blue, and you can just do things like put in, see, look at that, that could be a person walking along the bridge just in blue or something. Maybe here, blue shirt, another one there, little tiny little glimpses of color. I'm going to mix a bit of white gouache. And white gouache is a opaque paint. And I use it at times to get in some just little details and bits and pieces. Here's another one. Okay, just maybe indications of people walking along in the bridge or something like that. There, you put some heads on them as well. Yeah, there we are. Just little people. Don't have to be much. Just a tiny little indication of them. Oops, too much. There. So really, at this stage, you're just trying to pick out little bits and pieces that you want to further emphasize. I mean, for example, I've noticed just some extra detail that I might add on to this tower, and that I'll just play around with a bit like that. Not too much, but here and there, just this area as well, this gate. I thought I'll just darken a touch like that. Darken there. What else can we do? Even on some of the windows, you might want to darken some of them a little. That. These little contrasts make things a lot more interesting. A bit too far up for that one. Doesn't matter. Chimneys or something there. Also maybe like indication of some branches like that. They're not really there in the reference, but I'll just, I don't know, just make it up. I think something like that would be nice. Some more brown though. Little branches or something coming through here. Okay. Is this dried yet? I want to put in a bit of extra darkness at the bottom of the boat, like that, just to help it anchor to the water better. And I'm getting very close to almost overworking the bridge. Cool. I think I might call this one done. Actually, I'll go back into it later and maybe add in some further details here and there. But I think this has been about an hour. What time did we start? Okay, we started about 10:30, so it's been a couple of hours. Julie's asking, can you zoom in on the birds? Yeah, let me just go a bit closer. How was that? There we go. Hope that's helpful for you, Julie. France, I hope I've pronounced your name correctly, France. Have you seen any of Thomas Schaller's work? Yeah, he's incredible, absolutely incredible work. Yeah, he's more of like an architectural watercolorist. I think he was in architecture before. Let's have a look. What have we got? Any more questions, guys? I just wanted to show you what we've done today. In quite a simplified sense, you can see that I've created this sense of light coming from the right-hand side of the scene. Okay, you've got a lot of this yellow. I think if I were to do it again, I'd probably go a bit subdued on the yellow. But I'm quite happy with how it's gone. I just would have used more of a maybe desaturated yellow. But what I really like about this is that I have managed to preserve the light and general feel of this scene. Let me just move everything around a bit more, taking off the paper to make it easier to see what's going on. So that's what we've got. That's what we've got. And the important thing to remind yourself of each time you do a painting is to look at the light and dark areas of a scene. So I'll paint the light areas first, so the sky, a lot of the yellows, underneath the bridge, bits and pieces, even like leaving bits of the white out on the boats, and then going over that second layer and painting all these lovely little shadows over the top. How'd you guys go? Let me know. Let me know how you thought of this session, and if you have any feedback as well, guys. And Diane says, "This is so fantastic. I may try to paint one of my Prague photos." Yeah, that would be awesome. And I think as well, having going over some of your own photographs, it helps to consolidate those memories. So thank you, Julie. Thanks for coming along. Pamela says, like it looks good. Hope you did well with your version as well, Pamela. Would love for you guys to post what you've seen, your session. What am I talking about? Post your paintings. If you go to facebook.com/group/watercolor mentor, actually post it on there in our community. We've also got a group called Watercolor Beginners, and be able to get some feedback on your paintings. I am going to just quickly go through another time, and I'll also wait for some questions to come up, but I want to talk a bit about my course again. I'll just run through it again, and I'll show you what you get also when you're inside. So I'll show you sort of behind the scenes what all the different what's included in my program. So I ran through this about halfway, guys, and Diane says, "Thanks for the discount on your classes. I signed up." Thanks so much, Diane. Really appreciate it. And if you need any help and stuff, let me know. Thank you so much for your support. Diane runs a great group here on Facebook as well. Check it out. It's called Watercolor Beginners and Beyond. And she does all these giveaways and fantastic challenges as well. So definitely have a look on that on Facebook. Now, while I wait for some questions and things like that to come up again, everyone, I'm going to just drag this window across. I've got too many windows open, and I'm really surprised that I've resisted the urge to sneeze the entire time, but I'm getting close to it soon. Just give me one moment. I'm just trying to bring everything over to one side of the screen. It's kind of a bit tricky when I've got two separate screens. I find that can be funny. So I'm going to bring up this quick presentation. I did talk about this one already before, but for those of you who are still here, because I still see there's about 60 to 80 people watching, if you want to hang around, I'll answer your questions, and I'll also talk about this program that I have running. It's what all those links are in the description. There's two links. The first link brings you to my entire Watercolor Essentials program. It's a special 58 course program, hundreds of projects in it, and that will keep you busy for a very, very long time. Fortunately, my presentation is loading very, very slowly, but let me see if I can get that up. Let me see if I can just get that up on the right-hand side of the screen. So here we go. I did run through this a little while before, but this is a program that I've been running for close to about a year now, 58 course program, and these are some of the demonstrations that are included. But like I said, you get lifetime, 58 courses, lifetime access. Each course has at least, well, the older courses, I think from course 1 to about 50, have at least 2 to 4 demonstrations inside. Some of them have about 15 demonstrations. I tend to stick with just one demonstration per course now because it allows me to focus a bit more on that particular subject. Whereas before I was just doing so many and it was getting exhausting really. So I think it works out best that way. Lifetime access. So once you sign up for this program, not only do you get access to the 58 courses that are already in there, but you get access to any other additional ones that I end up adding to the program. So initially started with 30 and I've got another 4 that I've recorded, which I'll just need to edit and put in there. So like I said before, hundreds of hours of demonstrations, and you also get the ads-free version of all these live recorded workshops that I upload in there. You can do them at your own pace. So they're all kind of on demand, so you can pretty much click on whatever you want to watch, start and stop it, and they're all narrated very similar to how I've run this particular session. So if you enjoyed the session and you got some value out of it, you definitely get a lot of value out of my course because I run through it probably a lot slower, and I can concentrate a bit better as well because when I run these live sessions, I just multitasking, not a huge thing for me. I'm really good at focusing on perhaps one thing at a time. So they're all recorded in real time. I ran surveys and things like that to see what people wanted and what they struggle with most with watercolors. And so these are the things that I keep in mind when, in the courses and in the demonstrations. And, often when you start painting in watercolors, it's very difficult to feel confident. And confidence is really just a byproduct of being competent in something. And a lot of the time, we don't even know what we need to be competent in. It's very difficult. I mean, you watch tutorials, these quick 10-minute tutorials on YouTube, and instructors will go through things, but they won't explain how and why they're doing it. So I talk about all the way from the basics, like perspective and drawing, kind of like what we're doing today when I'm talking about the relative size of buildings. I'm not a perfectionist, guys. So if you're looking for a course that's on super detailed watercolor sort of landscapes, probably my portraiture stuff is a lot more detailed, but this is more for people who are interested in loose watercolors. And for me, I like to finish a painting in roughly 1, maximum 2 hours. So that's just how, it's just my particular style. Timing is so crucial, and it's something that a lot of people are not aware of when they're painting. So timing is basically when to use certain techniques. You noticed before when we were painting the scene of Prague that I hadn't dried part of the paper, and I'd gone in and started painting the tower, and you noticed a bit of that paint started bleeding into the sky, creating a slight mess there, but I managed to stop it in its tracks and just sort of dry it off. So that's another thing that's crucial. I think people get frustrated and give up early because they're just doing techniques at the wrong time. And if you know roughly how wet the paper needs to be when you go into certain sections, I think that helps to have more predictable and more predictable effects, so that you're not left wondering what happens when you put some paint in and it just spreads everywhere. And I think having little successes really go a long way in motivating you. And as a beginner, I spent too much time just spinning my wheels and nearly giving up, really. So I don't want that to happen to any of you guys. So I hope you got a little bit of my process today as well from that. But that's something I cover in this program. Brush techniques and water control. So we talked a bit about them today. Dry brush, we've got things like how much water to put on your brush, how wet the brush needs to be when you're using certain techniques. So if you use too much water, put too much water on your brush, sometimes it creates an uncontrollable effect. If you use too little water, it's just not going to look smooth. And when you're doing something like a sky wash, for example. So I always talk about that through my process as well when I'm doing the demonstrations. Tone is really important, and something I focus a lot on in this program. So going through how light, how dark things are, because without knowing how light, having a proper light source in there and having different levels of tones, you're going to have trouble implying depth. So you notice in the scene today, the bridge was a lot darker than everything in the back. So that's important so that the bridge comes forwards and doesn't just blend into the background. So I'll teach you how to identify tones and simplify them down so that you can usually, in most cases, get in 2 washes, paint something in 2 washes. Let's have a look here. Layering as well. A list of reminders to talk to you about the things I go through here, because I tend to forget if I ramble a lot. So talked about that as well. Choosing colors as well. So a lot of people tend to get confused with what colors to use in the beginning. You will pick up palettes that sometimes there's pre-made ones that have 20 colors in it, and that can be really overwhelming for beginners, because you're thinking to yourself, hey, I've got this blue, I've got 3 different blues, I've got 3 different yellows. Really, you just need 3 primaries: a yellow, red, and a blue. And if you've got some a tube of white gouache, maybe a convenience color like a Payne's gray or a neutral tint, that's ideal. But if you've only got your 3 primaries, that's the most important thing. And to simplify down as well in the beginning is crucial, because too many colors equals too many variables. And when you got to worry about how wet your brush is, the paper is, how much paint you're using, the concentration of paint and water, having all those colors mixed in there can be difficult to achieve a sense of balance. So I always recommend using fewer colors. Vision is something I talked about today as well. So, in terms of making, and let me see if I can just bring back my scene. So vision in terms of, okay, I started out looking at the entire reference picture and thinking, okay, well, am I actually going to get in the whole scene, or am I just going to take a part of it? These buildings just go on forever and ever. And so I ended up just cutting it off about halfway and using this onwards. And that way there's more of a focus on the bridge, less of a focus on all these buildings to the left, which I think are not so relevant. I've got this, the start of the Charles Bridge. It's kind of left center of the page. If I move it a little bit over, it's kind of left of the center section, but in quite a central location as well. And you've got this tower, this dome here, and this dome here, kind of in the 1/3 section as well. In terms of adding in the boats, that can change the feel of a scene as well, just make it look a bit more lively. The sky, sometimes you might think to yourself, well, I want to make it look more stormy or maybe look more bright, so I'll use less color in the sky, less concentration in the sky. Or you might want to create darker clouds. So vision is something you have to keep in mind before you start your painting, and I think it's really just your planning, and you're planning and you're painting in your head before you even lay your paintbrush, put your paintbrush to paper. And so that way you have a way, it's almost like a goal, have a goal of what you're trying to achieve. So let me just bring back, so this is basically the some of the included demonstrations that you get. There's so many in there, and I couldn't put them all in, but these are just some of the demonstrations, and you can see my style of painting. It's very loose, and I like to use a lot of vibrant colors. Lately I've been going through and using fewer colors and more of a subdued dull palette, but here are some of the ones and previous demonstrations as well. These are some landscapes that I've done as well, some Australian landscapes, and just simplifying in 2 layers. Some line and wash as well. Line and wash is where you use pen and watercolors, combine them together. Okay, more line and wash. Really good if you're looking to improve your drawing skills. There's a whole bunch of stuff in here and requests from previous students of mine as well who wanted me to create courses on particular topics or demonstrations. I do a bit of portraiture as well. I actually think my portraiture is technically better than my landscapes, but I enjoy painting landscapes more. I tend to find with portraiture you've got to be more accurate with everything, and sometimes I feel like I lose some of that artistic license to change things around. So here again, here's some of my ratings. If you're interested in this course, by the way, um, check in the description. Also, let me know in the comments. Let me know in the comments if you're interested, and I'll send you the link of it if you're not sure. If you have questions as well, you can just chat to me about it afterwards. It does come. You can actually enroll for a trial as well and access like a few videos in there if you want to see what's in it. But I will go through quickly what's in it. These are some of my ratings. So for those of you who might not know me very well, I teach on a few different platforms. So these are my instructor ratings, some recent instructor ratings that I have. This is one from the tops on Facebook. I think it's gone up to like maybe 40 ratings or 50 ratings. I'm not sure now. I haven't checked it. But I get pretty good reviews for these classes. So here's what's included, and I'll just go through it with you. You get tailored feedback from 2 months of registration, so you can message me directly and I'll help review your paintings, and more importantly, help save you time by identifying what areas you need to improve on, what areas you've done well, so that you can have more of a focused approach, more of a tailored approach, and that will help you to learn faster. I think in the beginning, when you're not sure exactly what and how to identify what areas you need to improve on, or what techniques have worked or what haven't, having someone like me that can actually point you in the right direction will save you a lot of frustration and keep you going on your journey. So that's something that you get. And also, after that 2 months, I have a private group, and you can join that private group, and I answer questions there on a priority basis. So if you have any other questions about the course, or you want some feedback on your work, post it in there and I'll get back to you. And yeah, so yeah, like I don't know if I mentioned this before, but initially there was 30 courses, and I've since added more and more. There's 58 now. There's another 4 that I've got to edit and add on to it. So you get extra value over time as I create new ones and tackle different subjects. So it's great value. And I don't know any other program that offers something like that, really. Usually a lot of artists and people who sell these courses and stuff like that, they'll just release a new one and charge another fee for it. So I mean, I don't know how long I'll be offering this package for, but I'm still, I think it works for me at the moment, and I'll keep going with it. So for the 4th bonus, you get ads-free access to all the previous live workshops as well. So yeah, that's also included in there. So this is what you get. Normally the price is $497, but for November, it's because it's Black Friday and what have you. The first time I've just reduced it down to $247. So a lot of stuff in there. I'm actually going to show you what's in there. And I also included some of this is a painting I did back in, I think, 2014. So, can definitely see where you're coming from and the frustrations as well. I mean, that was how I used to paint. And painting is not a kind of linear process as well. For the first few years, I was spinning my wheels, and my paintings just looked like this for years, until I figured out the process that I've shown you a bit of today. But yeah, just understanding the relationship between tone, color, planning your painting, choosing a proper reference photo as well, I think is important. And if and I say proper reference photo in that some references are not the best for watercolors, and some beginners will choose photos that are very tricky or require just some additional thought and modification before you actually paint it. So yeah, a couple ways you can sign up for it. There is if you look at the pinned comment, let me just pick up the whoops. I think Alice Depika is saying, "Good class. Please send me the links for your credits course. Fantastic. We'll send that to you. I'm trying to just multitask in a few things, but give me a moment. Um, but I'm still having a look at all the questions in here, guys. So if you have anything you want me to cover, please please let me know while I'm here. You can also sign up on Patreon. So $30 a month on Patreon, and that yeah, if you want to just try it out even and see what's in there, or if you'd like to support me, you get different tiers on there as well, different patron tiers. So this is yeah, some more before and after stuff that I've just put up here. You can see pretty basic trees and going to something like this as well. So if you're interested, just type enroll in the chats. This is the link. If you go to that link, you can purchase the course. But I'll also message some of you guys back as well. And yeah, some more student testimonials that I've got here from some of my lovely students online. I haven't heard from Philip for a while. Hope to hear from Philip. Philip Stroll. He used to be watching pretty often. Lisa. Yeah, just a few that I've managed to pick up and stick on here. So that's pretty much it. Now I want to let me just over a second, and I will show you what is included, what it kind of looks like once you're inside the course. So yeah, so this is it, and this sort of starting page. And if you go down the left hand side of the screen, you can scroll, and these are all the courses that are available. I've separated them out. So your portraiture, line and wash, and then you've got all the watercolor ones straight at the top. So for example, let's pick something, village huts in watercolor. I might click on that one there. That's like the video, and it kind of has the course resources at the start as well. So all the demonstration materials, all the references. I also include some tracing templates in there. Some of you guys like to trace and not be fussed with the drawing. As well. So this is one of the demonstrations that I did just the other day. Let me just go through. So again, just talking about shadows, and I really like this one actually. It's one of my favorites. It's something different, one that I usually paint, but I love looking at scenes where there's lots of contrasts and things like that. So it's a little bit, my internet's kind of capping out at the moment, but these are all recorded in 1080p. They're professionally recorded. I use a DSLR camera to record these. Yeah, it's just my internet is kind of struggling to keep up with all these windows open. What else do we have in here? We've got atmospheric beach landscapes. Can we just have a look and click into that one? Oh, this one I quite like as well. Light and shadow. Painting a sunflower seed in watercolor. Sunflowers scene, I mean, not a sunflower seed. So you can just sort of see my process there as well. Janice is asking question, interested in enrolling. Will the price still be good for tomorrow? Yeah. Don't rush, Janice. You've still got until the end of this month for November. So yeah, I'll send you the link in a second. I've just got so many windows open up. I get confused. My mind goes into this weird sort of mode, at times when I've got too many windows going on. It's probably give me a moment. Just bring up that thing and send it to you. Let me see what other questions do we have and what other chats we had. Got a comment from okay, Keith's question was the building shadows. What did I use for the building shadows in the Prague scene? So yeah, I used basically a combination of purple, a bit of gray, and a bit of brown. So really, if you just use a bit of gray, it's fine, Keith. Gray, if you think about it, it's a combination of every single color. I find it's just simplify it down. I just use gray most of the time. Maybe like a cooler gray because the buildings are yellowy, have that yellowish tinge to it. Yeah, that's kind of the using complementary colors as well. Mark's got a comment. Says, thanks, Darren. Like always, you've done a wonderful job. I'm still drawing. That's okay. You can still rewind this session, Mark, and go through it and go there. Diane says, oops, sorry, what am I doing here? Too many things just popping up. I'll post mine when painted. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Bye, everyone. Thanks, Mug, and have a great Sunday. Diane, let me have a look here. There's just a few more comments. I've missed out on them, but I want to make sure that I've addressed everything in here. Let's have a look. Rebecca Manchester says it's past midnight. Past midnight. Have to go. We'll pick up the second half YouTube. Thanks so much. Thank you, Rebecca, for coming along. Karen says this is great. Thanks so much. I've learned a few more things that I'll be anxious to try. Yeah, and you've done great, Karen, to make it all the way through to the end. And I think a lot of the times, stepping out of your comfort zone to paint something like this and having that, having that the ability to just persevere through to the end, get you a long way. So thank you for coming along. You've done well. Cat Create says, thank you. This was so much fun. Thank you, Cat. And thank you for joining. I'm just reading out the YouTube comments at the moment. Martina says, maybe a bit too fast for me, but I had fun. I wouldn't know 2 hours have already passed. Me neither. It's the thing about painting, isn't it? You so focused in the moment. And it's why I love painting. It's one of the few things in life where it's the only thing you're concentrating on at the time, especially with watercolors. There's a sense of urgency because the paper's drying and you have to really think. And so your full attention is really needed in watercolors. And it's something I think is quite unique about it. So, yeah. Pamela says, it's worth the money. I've learned a lot and I enjoy watercolor now. Awesome, Pamela. And I like how you always got a new painting that you've attempted each week. So reach out, Pamela, if you need some help. But you've got access to the group, and also you can just chat to me as well. Diane says, just signed up. Looking forward to learning to be more loose. May I share the link in my Facebook group? Yeah, by all means, Diane. Like, I'd love for you to share that in your group, whether it's this live session or whether it's the course. Even the live session, I really appreciate that. Diane just helps me get helps get my my art and my courses out to more people. So thank you so much for offering. Alice says, thank you for sharing. Thank you, Alice, for coming along. I might have seen you in one of the previous sessions as well. I'm gonna just hang around for a bit. I've got to find that link. I've been kind of. I should have copied this link before, but guys, the link is in the video description. If you click just on the video description, open it up, there'll be the link to the main course. The first link, I believe it is, and then the second link is to my Patreon. If you wanna access my courses on a month-to-month basis, as well. So, give me a moment. Here we go. Got it. computer also conks out a little bit when I've got too many things. So Deepika, I'm just going to send you the link. But I'm going to hang around. If anyone has some more questions as well, do let me know. If I can just bring back the scene. Where is it? Pop that off. Turn this off, and bring that back. Okay, here we are. I am back, and just close up some of these windows. And I'll just reply to you, Deepika. I might have to do it afterwards. Actually, it's just not really because I've got too many windows open, and Facebook is just being a bit weird at the moment. But I did. Yeah, there we go. I think I've just sent it to you. I think that's it, guys. I might hang around for about a minute or two more. I mean, we've still got about 30 or so people watching. Not sure if you're still there, Keith, but how'd you go today? I hope you did well, and post that up on the group as well. Love to see what you come up with. Fantastic. All right. I think that might be it. We've still got a few people, 21 people watching. Any other questions? Last chance. Last chance before I head off. I need to grab some lunch. It's 1:00. 1:00 here in Melbourne. And I also need to take a hay fever pill. Keith says I just posted. Awesome. I'll check it out. Keith. And Keith is one of my patrons and friends as well. He came over to Melbourne. We hung out for a little bit, and Keith's from the States. I think from near California. I think you're mentioning LA. Sorry. So it was really good to catch up with Keith for a little bit while he was in Melbourne. Thank you, Diane and Pamela. Good to see you along. I'm going to hopefully run a couple more of these over in December at this year, because I've got a bit of time off my day job in December, so I'm gonna December, January. So give me some extra bit of free time. Yvonne says good job. Thanks, Yvonne. And I think that's it. We've been pretty lucky as well with the stream today. I really did a lot of testing to make sure that it would run fine, because the last couple of lives did not run so well. They just conked out halfway, and I had to keep reconnecting. So thank God this one has gone well. I'm going to end the stream, everyone. If you have questions, if you're watching afterwards, let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, have a lovely evening, morning, or afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for your time, and I hope you got some value out of this session.